course, the Babylonian Empire, like I was saying, was centered on the area that we now call Iraq. Now, yes, oil was involved. Yes, many things were involved. One of the things that I've seen so often over the years and years of researching this is that there is very rarely, if ever, just one reason why something is done. And one of the reasons for the focus on Iraq is that historically it is like a sacred area to this Illuminati, because this in many ways is where it started out and expanded itself towards its goal of global control. So like I say, they moved out up into Europe and they became the royal families and aristocracy of Europe, and there came a point where the people were now beginning to rebel against in-your-face dictatorship, the rule by monarch. And so these bloodlines started moving out of overt control, in-your-face dictatorship through the monarchs, into the dark suit areas of control as they've become. Control of banking, control of politics, control of business, control of all these areas that dictate our lives today. And through the British Empire, particularly the British, on which it was said the sun never set, quite rightly, but also the French and others, but particularly the British, it went out all over the world. And then there came a point where apparently on the surface these former colonies were given independence. That was only, however, on the surface, because the center of the Illuminati is in Europe. Historically, that's where it has been. Europe, the Vatican, the City of London, etc. And what happened when colonialism came to an end is that there was a sleight of hand. There's two forms of dictatorship. There's one you can see, touch and taste: communism, fascism, apartheid. At least the people in that situation know that they're under control and they can see who's controlling them, at least on one level. Eventually, the human desire for freedom is going to rebel against that, because they know what they're dealing with. The greatest form of control is the control you can't see. The prison without the bars. Because you'll sit there in prison under control thinking you are free for your whole life, because you don't think there's anything you need to do about it. And what happened when this colonial situation ended is the bloodlines were left out in those countries. So was the secret society network through which the bloodlines manipulate themselves and their place men and women into power. And they've gone on being controlled from Europe ever since. Not by Blair's government or the German government, no, pawns in the game. The center of the secret society network, which is based in Europe. And one of the great centers is London, or Babylondon as it's become known. The City of London, all around the area of St. Paul's, where all the finance and stuff goes on. And also the area that's become more famous recently with Dan Brown's book, The Da Vinci Code, and stories about that, which is this area of London known as the Temple, which is where the legal profession is centered. Now, when I say the legal profession, I'm talking about a pyramid again. Not everyone who's a lawyer in this area is involved in any manipulation. We're talking about the core, that control from within, that the vast majority of lawyers have no idea even exists. And of course this is a very symbolic church, a Knights Templar church, I think going back to the late 1200s, 12th century, that kind of period, which was built by the Knights Templar, who used to run that whole area. And when you do the research, they still do. Also, the Vatican became a great center during the Roman Empire, of course, and what followed. And of course, it was the Roman Church that became Christianity, that was set up out of Rome, and it was set up by the same bloodlines that moved from Babylon to Rome. The Church of Rome is the Church of Babylon, and that's a big key symbolic of the way the building is even structured there. So these bloodlines, I'll get into as we go through the day why these people are obsessed with genetics. There are two levels to it, and the real level I'll get to towards the end of the day. But there's a real reason why they're obsessed with genetics and holding a certain DNA, which is really, really important to them. This is just a few. If you follow them, it takes a hell of a lot of research, and a lot of genealogists have done a lot of research, and there's a hell of a lot still more to do. But you can pick up bloodlines that come down through ancient Egypt, down through Sumer, the Indus Valley civilization, very, very advanced, through the Phoenicians, Babylon, down through Philip of Macedonia, who was the father of Alexander the Great, who by the time he died in Babylon at the age of, what, 32, 33, had plundered and controlled much of that blue and white map that we're looking at. The bloodlines came down through Cleopatra and the Roman Empire, down through Constantine the Great, the Roman emperor, who at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD created the Nicene Creed, which is the foundation belief of Christianity to this day. Came down through the Merovingians. Now, of course, the Merovingians have been brought to public attention by Holy Blood and Holy Grail, and then by, in effect, its offshoot, the Dan Brown book, the Da Vinci Code. The Merovingians are very, very important to the Illuminati. They are a prime bloodline that takes the name Merovingians, and the names have changed through the centuries, but Merovingian bloodline is one of the major ones. And like I say, it was featured in both of these books. Incidentally, just my view, the Merovingian bloodline is very, very important to the Illuminati, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the bloodline of Jesus. That's the kind of little diversion off, you know, where we lose the plot. And interestingly, in the Matrix movie, one of the key characters, who was the gatekeeper, was given the name the Merovingian, which the writers of that could not have done by accident, given the background. So it comes down through the Merovingians, through Charlemagne, or the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire for a long time, through the Habsburgs out of Austria, through the de' Medici family, a major banking family in Italy, and down through the House of Lorraine, which is still a major Illuminati bloodline operating as its base in that area around the French-German border. Of course, the House of Lorraine symbol is the double cross. Oh, he double-crossed me. Yeah, very appropriate, especially in Exxon, who just announced record profits while we're paying record amounts for fuel. Comes down through the French royal dynasties and into Britain, down to the present royal family. It comes into America, down through the presidents of America. I mean, if you look at the genealogy of American presidents, it reads to a large extent like a royal bloodline in Europe, which is where many of them came from. So right down to the Bush family. And what is that but a dynasty? When you have your father having 2-3 terms as president of the United States, 2 officially given to Reagan, but that's just for public consumption. And then his son comes along, who has to have help tying his shoelaces, and becomes president of the United States. I mean, there's something we need to know here. Coming down to this man from a very, very long way back. This is an alternative genealogy. Like I say, I have great sympathy with it. I like this one. I like this one there. I like that one. That's my favorite. Yeah. Who am I? You're an idiot. Thank you. Comes down through the Scottish bloodlines. Now, Scotland is really, really kind of important area for the Illuminati. And it's no accident that the biggest secret society in the world, in terms of numbers, is called the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Comes down through the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and the banking and business families of the world. Joseph Smith, who started the Mormon Church, Merovingian bloodline. Down through Brigham Young, who took it on from him, Merovingian bloodline. One of the symbols going right back through history of the Merovingians is the bee or the beehive. They found Merovingian graves where there's symbolic bees and beehives in there, in the kind of architecture and stuff, because that was the symbol. This is the seal of Utah, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Mormon Church, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of the Illuminati, and no accident that the center of it is the beehive, the symbol of the Merovingian bloodline. Charles